Good morning. Welcome into 104.5 The Zone. Hope you are off to a great start today. Lucas and I here with you until 1 o'clock. 615-737-1045 is how you join our discussion. Got a lot of stuff to get into. You're going to hear some analysis from Greg Cosell on the new Titans general manager, why he makes all the sense in the world for this particular team. We are also, we need to start in the place where there was news this morning. Bud, we're going to London. You excited?
Very.
So the Titans have not played an international game since Mike Vrabel's first season, 2018. That game was a bleep show. It was, for a variety of different reasons, crazy scene that unfolded at Wembley Stadium, and one of the most fun trips I've ever been on, understandably so, covering an NFL team. Hell, that was before I worked for A to Z Sports. That was way before I worked for the radio station. That was the infantile stages of a young Buck Rising's career. But
what did UPS send you there or something?
I mean, I believe I still had my part-time job loading trucks at UPS at the time while I was working for $10 an hour at another place overnights, and managed to finagle my way into the London trip in 2018. But we made it, baby. Life's different now. Either way, so anyway, NFL announced this morning, for whatever reason, they sent us all an email at 6 a.m. Couldn't wait to get the news out there, I guess, that they have designated the teams who will play international games in 2023. The Bills and the Titans will play at Tottenham Hotspur. The Jags will play at Wembley as part of their multi-year commitment to the United Kingdom. 2 games in Germany confirmed for 2023, with the Kansas City Chiefs and New England Patriots making their Germanic debut. So, those are the 5 teams that we know will play games internationally next season. And obviously for the Titans, the immediate question comes up for season ticket holders. Do I get a refund because of the season ticket packages that are already sold? You go from what should be 9 home games to now 8 home games, 8 road games, and 1 international game. Now, Jimmy Wyatt is there for you. He was prepared in his team release this morning, and I'll pull it up from Jim so I can give you the specifics on what it is that this means for season ticket holders. I hate, by the way, that is the first place that people's questions go to. Not, oh, how cool, the Titans are going to play at Tottenham Hotspur. It's, what does this mean? I mean, I shouldn't say that because...
Yeah, well, look who's talking. The guy that in every situation, the first thought that pops in your head is, what does this mean for me? So you just move on. Let's move on here.
What, do you think I'm putting myself in a losing position? You're right. Well, I think everybody defaults to that time and time again. But why are you telling me to shut up on Twitter? What happened? By the way, what are you doing? All these unprompted tweets from my account. Who gave you this license at this stage?
What are you talking about?
Why are we doing Dolly Parton polls today?
Don't worry about it.
What happened?
Don't worry about it.
Is it her birthday?
Yes.
Oh, well, wait. Do we know what birthday?
Not off the top of my head.
I don't want to betray the queen. We'll figure that out later on.
You want to wager a guess?
No, God, no.
Come on.
I mean, she looks incredible.
Yes.
Incredible by any standard of the definition.
How old do you think she is?
Dolly's got to be 75.
77 today.
Happy birthday to him.
To her.
I don't care. Good luck.
No, Stephen A. That kind of slander to say that you don't care about Dolly Parton's birthday will bring you more heat than you see. He had to walk back his Rihanna comments not after we made him the dumbest thing in sport. He had like an emergency press conference in the back of a Sprinter van that they put out from his official Twitter account, deeply apologizing for something he says his social media team put out about Rihanna.
Don't go after Rihanna.
Don't go after Dolly either. These are the rules. Anyway, so this is so the Tennessee Titans obviously will play in London at this stage, and this is the information that you need to know as a season ticket holder. What Jimmy writes is that the regular season expanded to 17 games, including a requirement for teams to play at least one designated international game on a rotating basis. So this was all contractually negotiated when they expanded the season. Titans, 8 home games, 8 road games, 1 designated London game. Additional details will be forthcoming. Now, for those of you who are season ticket members, your payment balance for 2023 will automatically be reduced. So you are saving money on the game that you will not get here in Nashville. Those enrolled in a monthly payment plan will see their payments automatically adjusted with no action required on their part. Season ticket members who have already made their full payment for 2023 season tickets will have a credit automatically applied to their accounts. So everybody take a deep breath. You don't have to pay for an additional game that's going to be played in London if you have already forked over that cash. Now, I also saw some complaints from people in my Twitter mentions about the lost revenue for the city of Nashville as far as a Titans home game is concerned. And while I do not want to downplay that for all of our business owners in this city, I mean, they'll find something to put at Nissan Stadium that weekend. They'll find some kind of something will be happening in Nashville, Tennessee that weekend that will maybe not completely offset the cost for the hotels and businesses, but like it's going to be okay. Now the game itself, it'd be curious to see who the opponent is because they will technically be the home team at this point. And now that we know the opponents for the Titans, that could be any number of these 9 teams: Ravens, Bengals, Texans, Chargers, Seahawks, Colts, Panthers. Ugh, God, wouldn't a Titans-Panthers game be a total drag to send over to London? That I think is the worst-case scenario. That one jumps off the screen to me as something that they might send to our friends across the pond. That would stink. Falcons-Titans would be spicy, though. Falcons are supposed to play the Titans at home, so the return of Art Smith and God knows half the Titans roster that was outcast and sent down to Atlanta when he took the job there. Either way, it's going to be a great trip. The Titans fans who traveled the last time that we all went were incredible. And, Lucas, have you been to London before? Surely.
Never been to the UK.
You've been to Europe, though.
Oh, yeah. Whenever we'd go visit my family in Italy, we would take the time and go to Switzerland or France or Germany, but never the UK.
Oh, my God, I love London. There are so many, and we got so lucky last time. It was early October when they played the Chargers. The weather was beautiful. I went over a couple of days early. I'm a nerd, so I went to, not that you need to be a nerd, it's just objectively cool to see all the history that city has to offer is as much as humanly possible, just to walk around and take all that in. And Wembley, that was my first time in Wembley. And, obviously you want to see an EPL game if you're going to be in one of those venues. But damn, it was an incredible environment for people who I swear had no idea what was going on, but were just happy and drunk to be there.
Well, and Tottenham Hotspur, as historic as Wembley is, and I would love to go see a game at Wembley, but Tottenham Hotspur more adept for hosting American football games.
So maybe we see what we don't know the specific date of the London game for the Titans. But it would cross over, right? With forgive me, I don't know the EPL season.
Yeah, for sure. It's basically August through May. So yes, there would be games going on that weekend in London.
Catch a game, bud.
There are various clubs in London in various leagues.
Man, I think that's such a cool trip. So I hope that we have more information on that, and we'll keep you updated with things as they become available. Jake Downard on YouTube says, Titans-Panthers at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time would be one of the lowest-rated games of the century.
Well, we know they're not going to play the Bills, right? Because the Bills are another one of the only other designated team to, quote-unquote, host a game at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
So you can, correct. You can remove the Bills from this particular equation.
And the Jags, because the Jags will be hosting a game, with air quotes, at Wembley Stadium. So they haven't announced the teams that are going to be the road team in these games, just the officially home teams.
I have to think they wouldn't do a divisional game overseas. I mean, I don't know that. I just can't think of a divisional game that's taken place.
Yeah, I can't think of an example. I mean, you had Bucks playing the Jags, right? Or was it Bucks Dolphins? It was definitely Florida Jags. It was Jags because Urban. Didn't Urban get his first win?
Urban got his first win internationally
in London. Yeah. So it was a matchup of Florida. I think it was Jags Dolphins, a matchup of Florida teams.
Yeah.
In London, but yeah, I don't think you get divisional games. But we have no idea who they might face in London.
No, and nor will we know that until the schedule release. I believe is
May usually.
May or April, somewhere around there. Either way, exciting stuff. Looking forward to making the trip. We're all going to have a great time. Hope to see you there. Meantime, let's talk about the NFL playoffs that will be ongoing this coming weekend. The divisional round is spicy, kids, and we've got a lot of good insights and analysis to get into coming up next. 615-737-1045 is the number. Here's the question that I want to ask you. Which team as a home favorite, and I'll give you the teams, which team as a home team, and all home teams are favored at this point in the playoffs, who do you think is the most likely upset candidate of the four home teams? The Chiefs playing the Jags, the Eagles hosting the Giants, the Bills and the Bengals getting their regular season, I don't want to call it a rematch because the game never finished, but Bengals at Bills and Cowboys at Niners. The Niners are favored, even though the quarterback situation is obviously slanted in favor of the Cowboys. So of the four favored teams, Chiefs, Eagles, Bills, and Niners, who do you think is the most likely upset candidate this weekend? We'll talk about it coming up next. It is the Queen's birthday, baby. Happy 77th to Dolly Parton. Your misappropriation of my Twitter account is now forgiven. I'm sure you were concerned. 615-737-1045 is how you join the conversation. Playoffs. The NFL Divisional round up next. Oh, this is such a great song. Just a little bit longer.
This is my favorite Dolly song, Traveling Prayer.
Makes me so happy. We'll mix in some Beatles, maybe a little of the Clash since the Titans are going to London. Switch it up a little bit today. Meanwhile, NFL postseason rolling along. Titans obviously not participating at this time. We have some more information on the Titans offensive coordinator search and the general manager hire of Ran Carthon. Press conference tomorrow if you had forgotten. So you'll hear from the new GM then. We hope to have Ran Carthon on the radio show at some point next week. So we will keep you updated with time and date on that. Meanwhile, let's take a look at the NFC games first, and the idea that the four teams remaining on that side of the bracket, the interest level among them, three of them being from the NFC East, first and foremost, is crazy. The quarterbacks, though, are probably, and the quarterbacks are always going to garner the most attention, the most amount of conversation. It's the most popular position. It's the easiest thing to talk about, quarterbacks. But the Giants and Eagles game, I think, is one of the most interesting matchups of any of the four games that are going to be played. Daniel Jones, we talked about him when we came in here on Monday. And I don't know that any player has helped themselves more than Daniel Jones has this season. Now, obviously, Daniel Jones is getting significantly better coaching. He's playing in a system that's far more suited to his skill set. But still, he's had to execute and has done so at a very, very high level. This is the kind of fascination that I think, to kind of bring it to a local tie, because what do you give a bleep about Daniel Jones if you're a Titans fan? Although there is a fair amount of Giants fans, a lot of New York transplants as of late. Have you noticed that? New York and Los Angeles?
Transplants from everywhere.
Sure, but like real heavy New York. I saw a lot of Giants fans, or a lot of Giants jerseys in week 1 when they opened up here in Nashville. But Daniel Jones, the reason why I think it's interesting from a Titans fan standpoint is because does the quarterback make the team, or can the team make the quarterback? Now, there are multiple ways that you can look at this, and each situation of the 32 NFL teams, you probably take unto itself. It's kind of like lumping interceptions together as a number total instead of taking each interception as its own kind of story. But I think that for Titans fans who are looking at their quarterback situation and trying to figure out, okay, is Ryan Tannehill actually insufficient to help this franchise achieve the goals that it seeks to achieve? I think many people would have made the same allegation of Daniel Jones, who is a 6th overall draft pick back in 2019, who was not only he was mocked, but the person who drafted him was mocked, Dave Gettleman. By the way, nobody looks better than Dave Gettleman with the way that those 2 first-round picks for the Giants have kind of come through. Dexter Lawrence is a freak. Absolute freak.
Did you ever go back and look at that roughing?
Yes. Oh, my God.
How bad was that?
Oh, my God. You were correct. The worst one that we saw all year.
By far.
There were some bad ones. And I in fact, there's YouTube. You can find anything on YouTube. But there's a highlight reel of all the worst roughing the passer penalties in the NFL this past season. And they don't even come close to this one on the Giants. But to stick with the quarterback conversation, his circumstance has become so much different now that he is being put in a position to succeed. And there becomes the conversation, okay, franchise quarterback, what does that mean to you? Is that somebody who inherently elevates everything around them as a superstar player at the position and somebody who you would categorize as elite? Well, if you're going to do the judgments that way, you're narrowing. I mean, how many elite quarterbacks are there in the NFL? I'd probably venture a guess to say 3. 3 might be too many.
Well, you're saying Josh Allen, Pat Mahomes, Jalen Hurts?
No, I don't think I would not put Hurts in that category. I almost
Easy.
Shoot. Whoops.
Brady and Rodgers?
No, not at this stage of their careers. I don't think. I think you take it on a year-by-year basis.
Now we're getting it. This is a whole other conversation.
This is a relevant conversation. Like, I think this matters for the purposes of Titans fans who are very much, I think on the fence about their quarterback situation. I would argue that there were only 2 elite quarterbacks in the NFL this year. I would argue that they are Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes.
And not Joe Burrow.
Joe, I think, is on the verge. I think Joe and Jalen Hurts belong in a category unto themselves.
And Justin Herbert.
Herbert, no. A lot of the problems that Herbert has, I think the offense is one thing, because the more that I studied Joe Lombardi, who was just recently fired, given that the Titans have an OC opening. And by the way, there were some good insights from Jeremy Fowler on Ramon, Kayla, and Will this morning that I don't know if Schaefer pulled that for you, Lucas, but we maybe shoot him a text, see if he can get you a timestamp on that, because I do think that's worth playing for the audience later. Let's not get distracted. There are 2 elite quarterbacks in the NFL this year. They both play in the AFC, Mahomes and Allen, and I don't care how you stack them. I think you can move down the next rung and put Burrow, Hurts. It's tough for me to put Brady in there this year, just because, I've seen Kirk Cousins run a chuck and duck offense. It's different when you're watching Tom Brady do it, because the same allegations that get hurled at Kirk Cousins are not getting hurled at Tom Brady, even though they played very similar. I would argue that Kirk played better this season and maybe gave more effort this season than Tom Brady may or may not have. So I think you have to do it on an annual basis that way. And I think the conversation then becomes, okay, if you don't have one of these 2 guys, what truly is the level of responsibility placed on the quarterback to be able to elevate everything else around them? Because I think so many people get caught up in the idea of franchise quarterback makes everything better, blah, 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 blah. Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is not elite by any stretch of the imagination, but if you put him in a good position to succeed, he can absolutely kill it for you. If you have somebody who understands how to use his skill set, it can truly go above and beyond to lift a team that I don't think anybody had the Giants going anywhere special this year, right? Preseason?
Definitely not.
And that's why preseason is nonsense. Completely and totally nonsense. So to look at Daniel Jones and the impressive month, particularly over the last month of the season that he's had, including this Vikings game, league best 77.8 QBR since week 14, a 96.8 QBR in the playoff clinching win over the Colts, which is the single best game by a quarterback this season, according to quarterback rating.
Yet, I don't feel like he's the primary focus going into this game.
Primary focus of whom?
Just the conversation going into Giants-Eagles.
Oh, of course not. No, because Jalen Hurts, is he healthy? He's not on the injury report, so, they can say whatever they want. He may be still dealing with stuff and they don't put him on the injury report. Who's to say? But no, the Eagles are going to take up the most air in this conversation because, again, it's the Giants. What do you expect the Giants to do? The Eagles are a better team, of course. The Eagles have won the 2 regular season games. The Giants are just happy to be here, yeah? Somebody better tell Brian Daboll and Mike Kafka that, because they're out here crushing it, and they're figuring out ways to put quarterbacks in positions to succeed. But that's and it comes back around to the conversation that we had yesterday about system quarterback and how people use that almost as a slur or game manager, when inherently when you talk to coaches about this stuff, the coaches are going to tell you, yeah, every quarterback is a system quarterback. Some of them can make plays outside the system that are otherworldly. Some of them are best equipped to succeed within the system. Every quarterback is a system quarterback. So then you take it further. Okay, game manager. Is game manager a negative connotation in your eyes? Do you think that is a negative To call a quarterback a game manager, do you believe that to be negative in terms of context?
I think most people do, but I don't. I feel like that's just part of the job description.
Correct. So if Daniel Jones, if you're going to hit him with the label of system quarterback or game manager or whatever the case may be, but he's still performing at a high level, he's still executing at a high level, and he's doing well within the system to manage the game, that's exactly what the coaching staff is trying to accomplish.
And that's a ridiculous argument to me if the coaching staff is going to get credit for the jump Daniel Jones has made this season, and absolutely they should, Brian Daboll and Mike Kafka.
Not exclusively.
No, but yeah, why shouldn't the player get that credit as well?
The player should, and he will be compensated thusly, okay? Both he and Saquon have absolutely gone above and beyond this year to their credit. And it does help that Saquon is back and playing at a high level and looks to be a closer version of himself than the one that we've seen banged up the last couple of years.
The question is, can they do what they did to Minnesota against this Eagles defense?
A rested Eagles defense. Now, then becomes the conversation in terms of the matchup of, okay, is Jalen Hurts a system quarterback and a game-managing quarterback? The answer to that would be yes. Jalen Hurts, who has equipped himself well. The Eagles, who have equipped Jalen Hurts well with an offensive-minded head coach who can put them in positions to succeed. Because Jalen Hurts is making like $1.7 million on his rookie deal as a second-round pick, they can spend $25 million a year on A.J. Brown. They can go out and sign guys like Ndamukong Suh off the street just because they can. They can have one of the best and most well-compensated offensive lines in football this year, and find ways to succeed around that. By the way, Ran Carthon's press conference officially announced for noon tomorrow, so we will carry that live for you right here on 104.5 The Zone when the new Titans general manager meets with the media. It does not say whether Amy and Mike will be there, but I'm not going to make any assumptions because the email doesn't say that they're going to be there. So
we'll find out.
We'll find out noon tomorrow.
But how much of this game is which quarterback is able to make more plays with his legs?
Well, so the Giants' defense is equally as stout as of late.
And playing their best football.
Xavier McKinney, formerly of Alabama, Adoree Jackson, who is playing corner as well as anybody at the position right now, Dexter Lawrence. Those are the three players that come to mind when you think about the Giants' defense who have really, really heightened their level of play. So it comes down to basically who plays the run better. Because Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley versus Jalen Hurts and
Miles Sanders.
Miles Sanders, who's had a hell of a year. I think both teams look to establish their passing game off their ability to run the football at will. Now, what the Eagles have shown that I haven't necessarily seen of the Giants is that their passing game in Philadelphia can operate independently of their rushing attack. We go back to the 2-game stretch between the Eagles and the Packers and then the Eagles and the Titans, where they ran roughshod completely over Green Bay, didn't really need their passing game to do too much because they were getting chunk play after chunk play on the ground. They're running quarterback draws on 3rd and 8 in ways that nobody but Lamar Jackson at his healthiest does. And then they turned around against the Titans and they absolutely shelled them through the air. Titans got no pass rush whatsoever on Jalen Hurts. They're going against one of the best offensive lines in the league. So Jalen Hurts largely able to operate cleanly, diced him up. New York, I haven't seen quite as adept. There have been moments, there have been spurts, but I haven't seen them do that quite as well thus far, which I think is what makes the Eagles the more dangerous team. Obviously, they have the better talent on paper, but on paper talent doesn't necessarily matter. I think the situation, though, for this game, where the matchup I think will truly be decided is, can New York get pressure on Jalen Hurts? Because there have been plenty of teams with healthier pass rushes, better pass rushes, that haven't been able to get near that quarterback because that offensive line is nasty.
And there's an element of unknown on what they're going to do with Hurts, right? On how full go he actually is going to be.
I mean, the only sample size that we can use is the most recent sample size against the Giants.
Yeah, they play that because they had a lot to play for in that game. They were clinching the 1 seed.
And so there was, he was obviously not the full version of himself. Jael asks, because A.J. Brown and Adoree Jackson is going to be a matchup in this game. They had Adoree on Justin Jefferson quite a bit when I went back and watched Giants-Vikings.
And Jefferson...
He didn't really do much.
Well, he had an impact early. He had like 6 catches in the first, second quarter.
I guess I should say he didn't really do much on the scale of Justin Jefferson.
Right. That's the thing. The way they cut him off for the majority of the second half did not allow the Vikings to make a push to win that game. It was a huge component in why the Giants won that game.
And Adoree did that so well.
Yeah. But Jalen Hurts could be a full go, but you have no idea how his shoulder's going to react, what it's going to be like when he takes that first hit that he's certainly not taking in practice. Everything that we're told is he's doing everything in practice. I heard Sal Palantonio on Get Up on ESPN this morning saying he's doing everything in practice. That's what we know. The zip on the ball is good. He's moving around fine. He's not on the injury report. But there's an element of what we don't know, and it's how he reacts when he takes that first hit or that third, fourth, fifth hit.
Yeah. So... can they keep him from getting hit? They've done that several times this year. Somebody asked, Jael asks in the YouTube chat, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch is where you can live stream the show. Was A.J. Brown and Adoree Jackson on the Titans at the same time? Yes, they had 2 years here, 19 and 20. A.J.'s rookie year and then the COVID year, but Adoree obviously wasn't out on the field for very much of the COVID season.
Yeah, they played together.
Well, that is going to be a matchup to watch, my friend, and one would inherently think it favors A.J., but Adoree did a hell of a job on Justin Jefferson.
Which of these 2 games is more intriguing to you between Giants, Eagles, and Cowboys, Niners in the NFC? Because I feel like in the AFC, the answer is easy, right? It's Bills, Bengals. Like you can be excited about Lawrence and Arrowhead it's Bills, Bengals.
Also, Trevor Lawrence is talking about he doesn't think Arrowhead's going to be that much louder than Jacksonville was last week. And bleep you, pal.
It will, but I don't think he's going to be that bothered by it, man. I don't know.
Not somebody who's played in national title games. On the road in the ACC, like. He's played in hostile environments with bigger crowds before.
And I don't know if Lawrence ever played a road game at an SEC venue. I don't think he ever did. I'd have to go back and look. But I overrate that stuff. People talking about, bulletin board material for the fans.
People overrate that stuff.
Yeah, I think people overrate that stuff. Like Arrowhead is loud, but like it's,
Sure, it's just something you can hit him over the head with.
Like what was louder for you? Arrowhead on Sunday Night Football against the Titans or Neyland Stadium against Florida?
Oh, well, Neyland, there's 30,000 more people in there.
So I think people overrate that stuff. But anyway.
The more interesting game to me.
In the NFC.
Oof.
I think it's a total toss-up.
I really do, too, because I think it's entirely possible. Like, if you had to ask me which 1 seed I thought was more likely to get upset off the first round bye, I would say inherently the Eagles. And not just because of the Jalen Hurts situation.
But it's just because they're not the Chiefs.
Right. And it's so impossibly hard to beat an NFL team 3 times in the same season. Like, it's especially a divisional opponent. It's so difficult to do. So,
I love the historical background of both of these games too. Giants Eagles is obvious with it being a divisional game and how well they know each other, but Niners and Cowboys kind of getting back to being that postseason rivalry is awesome to me. So many moments in NFL history with that game. And now it's back-to-back years that they're playing in the playoffs.
What's the most significant Niners-Cowboys playoff game that's been played in our lifetime?
It's the catch. In our lifetime. Of all time, I was going to say the catch, right? Joe Montana back of the end zone.
But
Dwight
I'm
Clark.
saying, like, since you and I have been alive. Since 19... Wait, so you were born 94, I'm 93.
I was 95. So...
Okay, rub it in.
What are you, 36, 37?
Chill.
So last year, right? I mean... The Dak running out of time, trying to spot the ball, and the official coming over, and Cowboys lose at home, despite Jimmy Garoppolo basically trying to give that game away. I mean that. Yeah,
but that didn't have the same juice that this one does. It feels. And maybe I'm discounting it because Brock Purdy looks like a world bit. Well, actually, to talk to some NFL players about how easy it's been made on Brock Purdy. All well and good. The guy is executing to his credit.
Dude's making off-schedule plays. Like, I don't like hearing about the situation he's in. It's the only reason he succeeds.
I'm just saying some football players who don't have it that easy are kind of bitter right now. That's all I'm saying to you.
Fair enough.
That's all I'm saying. I think I would slightly give the edge to Niners-Cowboys because what I saw from Dak in Washington in Week 18, which was arguably the worst Dak Prescott game I've ever watched, to see him then turn it around and play the best Dak Prescott
he was
game
so good.
I think I've ever watched is mind-boggling to me. So I think that with the storyline, and obviously the Niners are the deepest roster in football, with Brock Purdy, who is, this year's lovable underdog, if it's not the Jacksonville Jaguars, I think I would give a slight edge to Niners-Cowboys, but I do find the Eagles and Giants game absolutely interesting.
Mr. Lamb on YouTube says, how is crowd noise overrated? I bet the linemen wouldn't say that. It's not that it's overrated. It's that Trevor Lawrence has played in loud environments before.
It's overrated in the NFL.
Yeah, exactly. People act like these college quarterbacks that came out of the SEC or big programs like Clemson going into these big-time NFL stadiums are seeing something for the first time. Like, no, I completely disagree with that.
Now, I will tell you, because and I don't know what Mr. Lamb's, I just love reading the YouTube names on live air. I don't know what his experience with college football versus the pros is, but I would have also held a similar opinion having not been to a real college football game until this season.
Yeah. Like Peyton Manning,
I've never been in an SEC environment until this year, and my mind was blown.
Peyton Manning's talked about that, like his rookie year, standing out on the field and like a fellow rookie next to him during warm-ups, looking around, like amazed at the crowd and how many people. Like it is like that for a lot of guys, but for the players that came out of the LSUs and Clemsons of the world, it's like, no, I played in front of 109,000 people like a year ago.
I think I was talking to Monty Rice about this, the Titans linebacker that played at Georgia, obviously, and something to do with one of the games. I can't remember if it was a home or road game. He's just like, yeah, man, this is just our practices are louder than this.
Yeah, NFL loud is not SEC loud. Yeah, Trevor Lawrence, I know he didn't play in the SEC, but I think he'll be all right.
Slight difference. We'll talk about the AFC divisional round games later on, but in the meantime, we have to pay tribute to two teams that we do not talk near enough about, but one certainly more than the other deserves some discussion. The Memphis Grizzlies last night accomplished something that I don't think, I know Lucas didn't know until I told him this morning. I had no idea until I heard the stat watching the game last night, and a Pansy Caprez minute coming up next. London calling. We're going back. 2023, Titans and somebody. Titans going to be playing at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. This gives us the opportunity. So we're cycling between what, Dolly and anything related with London today? Is that what we've decided on as far as our musical taste is concerned?
I'm good with that.
Okay. You could do worse. Meanwhile, we don't talk a lot about the Memphis Grizzlies. And I understand that immediately when I say the name of an NBA team, there's a contingent of you that says, oh, I don't care about the NBA, blah, 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 selfish players, whatever. But the Grizz last night, I've been bouncing in and out throughout the course of the season. I'll DVR games just in case, Ja does something ridiculous and I want to go back and watch. But I'm watching live last night, I think probably about the third and fourth quarter after I wrapped up the primetime show. And they're playing the Cavs at home. They got their franchise record 11 straight win last night in a huge spot. And it wasn't just Ja that was a part of it. Now, he's always the thing that gets the most headlines because he is totally brilliant. And the way that they have kind of elevated themselves, though, this year has been as much about their defense as it has been about Ja. Now, looking at defensive metrics in the regular season versus once teams actually start to kick it into gear when NBA playoffs come around, there is an obvious difference. But their defense right now is first in the league. 108.9 points allowed per 100 possessions is crazy stuff. And it was as big a reason that they were able to hold off Darius Garland and the Cavs last night. Jaren Jackson, now that he's healthy and back in the lineup, he's a favorite for Defensive Player of the Year. I understand that we will not spend much time on the NBA during the NBA's regular season, if at all during the playoffs. But it's like the Bernie Sanders meme, right? I am once again asking you to care about the Memphis Grizzlies in Nashville because they are doing something incredibly special. And this dude, 3 hours to the west of us, is an ungodly superstar. And he is the most fun one to watch, but the rest of them are really, really good too. You are one of these people that just doesn't care about the NBA, yeah?
I will admit I am as checked out on it as I have ever been.
But that's okay. Is there any reason?
No, it's just one of those things. It's just kind of faded. I think every time I've tried to get into it, it's been too much of a forced effort. It's how I am with like Major League Baseball. Like I've tried, but I've gotten to the point where if it doesn't come naturally to me and I'm not like naturally invested, then it's harder and harder for me to stay invested.
No, I get that, and like I'm more inclined to watch basketball just because that's my favorite sport. But I totally get what you're saying through the context of baseball. I will actively try to care about baseball, and I just cannot get myself to do it.
I just can't do it. And I will watch the deepest depths of college basketball. Like if Xavier is playing West Virginia, I will watch.
Which is crazy because
the entire game.
Such worse basketball.
Yeah, and it's so much more appealing to me. Like so much more appealing. And I don't know what that is. There's probably some tie in there with college football and just kind of knowing the programs, but I don't know. And obviously the NCAA tournament is one of the best things American sports has to offer. But I do love watching Ja. And I wonder what Grizzlies fan would think about the idea that Ja Morant be the biggest star in Grizzlies franchise history since they came to Memphis. Like, would that be I don't know enough about Grizzlies fans and the franchise in general to know if that would be a controversial statement or not.
Ooh. Because how many years has Ja been there? 3, 4?
That sounds right.
Man, I think that's a tough thing to say so early on in his career.
As someone that admittedly has never been that invested, I can't remember any singular star with as much pull as Ja Morant nationwide for the Memphis Grizzlies. And I know that
because the NBA's marketing machine is definitely behind him in ways
1,000%
are way more obvious than any other Memphis Grizzlies. I mean, who the most recent one would be Mike Conley?
Well, yeah, that grit and grind era, I think there's a certain affection for that era among Grizzlies fans because that was kind of the identity of the Grizz franchise, and it wasn't one of those things that was greatly publicized across the NBA, right? Like, it was just kind of their thing, and they flew under the radar with that, with Conley and Zebo, with Randolph and a bunch of those guys. But I don't know. I feel like Ja has more pull than any of those guys, individually ever had with the Grizzlies.
I mean, the only Marc Gasol is probably the closest one just because of longevity. Because, if you wanted to lump people like Pau Gasol in there, who was with the Grizz for a hot second, and Shane Battier, who he got drafted by Memphis and obviously went on to have an incredibly successful NBA career, but not necessarily Grizz is not necessarily who he's associated with. It would have to be Marc Gasol or Zach Randolph. But I think Ja is infinitely capable of passing Zach Randolph sooner rather than later. And Marc Gasol, I think, has a particularly special place in Grizzlies fans' hearts. I don't think that Ja is there yet, but Ja is a bigger star for sure than either of those two were at the height of their profession.
Like already commanding way more attention. You're seeing him in every NBA on ESPN promo. The dunks are all over the place.
Yeah. 615, oh my God, we have calls on the Grizzlies? That makes me so happy. Thank you. 615-737-1045. Nick is in Memphis. Hey, Nick.
Hey, man. So Ja is basically on the trajectory to overpass Mark and Zebo. And, he already has his signature shoe with Nike. So,
yeah.
That's one big thing. He's electrifying. I go see him play once a year. I'm a Boston Celtics fan. By the time they made it to Memphis, I had already, made up my mind. But I go see him once a year when Boston comes to play, but I'm from Memphis. So, Ja, people are kind of saying he's kind of like Jordan as far as the electrifying thing. It wouldn't be far to say 3 to 4 years from now, Ja's going to definitely be that guy. Might even have a statue outside of FedEx Forum at some point.
I appreciate the call. Do they have any statues outside of the Forum?
Not that I know of, but
I still haven't been to a Grizzlies game. I'm dying to go. That is going to be my objective. Maybe a playoff game. Given the summer is like the easiest time for us to have free time like that, I am dying to take I've never been to Memphis.
I've never been to a Grizzlies game. Somehow, I was born in this state, and I've never been to a Memphis Grizzlies game.
Yeah, but I feel like this state is so disconnected.
It kind of is,
from east, middle to west.
Yeah, it's 3 different states.
I really do believe it does feel like 3 different parts of the country.
But Ja been in Memphis since 2019 and already kind of staking that claim.
Which is crazy, but not when you – so the caller brought up a good point about, he's already got a signature shoe with Nike. Yeah, Zach Randolph and Marc Gasol not getting signature shoes with Nike. Rudy Gay had a good stretch with the Grizz, if I remember correctly, and there's a couple of names like
he's got to be the most unique talent to ever come through.
But if Mike Miller, respectfully to Mike Miller, is in your top 10 of the greatest players to have ever played for your franchise,
it's a young franchise.
Yeah, sure. And by the way, don't want to disrespect Mike Miller at all. It made one of the most ridiculous shots with the Heat I've ever seen in my life with one of his shoes coming off in the playoffs. I can't remember if they won the championship that year or not. Chauncey in Nashville's next. Hey, Chauncey.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
What's up?
Hey, I'm a native Memphian who lives in Nashville now, and I was just literally in the building Monday for the MLK Day game.
Okay.
I will tell you, Ja Morant is the greatest superstar in Memphis Grizzlies history, but Zach Randolph is the most beloved star coming out of Memphis, and he's the only one with his number retired in the rafters, and just based on what he does during the Christmas season, he pays a lot of Memphis Light, Gas, and Water bills for the less fortunate every single year since he got to Memphis, and even once he went to Sacramento and subsequently retired. He's the most beloved Grizzly, but Ja Morant is the greatest superstar. And on another note, anything east of Jackson, Tennessee, and most people in Nashville don't care about anything in West Tennessee, and we have to stop that.
We do. It's time for us all to come together, Chauncey. Thank you very much. Unite as one state, East, Middle, and West Tennessee. All right, let's get back into some NFL stuff. Quarterback situations that could be determined by this weekend's divisional rounds. We'll talk about that coming up next.
It is 11:02. Good morning from the Superbook.com Sports Desk. I'm Lucas Panzica. In 2023, the Tennessee Titans are heading across the pond, announced this morning as a designated team to play in London in the 2023 season, along with the Bills and the Jaguars. The Titans will be playing in Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, with the opponent and the date yet to be determined. New general manager Ran Carthon will speak with the media for the first time tomorrow. An official press conference set for noon. You can, of course, hear that live right here on The Zone. Around the NFL, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have fired offensive coordinator Byron Leftwich following Tampa Bay's wild card round loss at home to the Dallas Cowboys on Monday night. And some good transfer portal news for the Tennessee Volunteers. Former BYU cornerback Gabe Judy announcing on social media that he is headed to Tennessee in 2023. Judy started his college football career at Vanderbilt. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once in your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Second down on this Thursday. What is happening? Welcome in to 104.5 The Zone, if I can get the words out. Welcome back. You've been hanging with us so far. Got a lot of stuff to get done in the next 2 hours. We welcome your participation. 615-737-1045 is the number. 615-737-1045. So we finally got news about offensive coordinator Byron Leftwich, officially fired by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers today. First reported by Pewter Report, and now the Tampa Bay Times making that official. So another offensive coordinator candidate, question mark, out there on the market for the Titans to consider. Now, the last I had seen was a report from, I believe, Tom Pelissero yesterday, about the Broncos offensive coordinator under Nathaniel Hackett, who took over the play calling once they fired Hackett in season, and that the Titans were bringing him in for an interview with their staff, but it didn't say specifically for the offensive coordinator position, which I thought was curious.
You said bringing in Hackett?
No, bringing it. His last name is Outen. I'm trying to find the tweet from Pelissero right now, but
yeah, Justin Outen, and maybe it's Uten. I'm not sure how you pronounce.
Yeah, I'm not sure
his last. But yeah, Pelissero said the Titans put in a request to interview Broncos offensive coordinator Justin Outen for a job on their new offensive staff. He called plays for Denver in the last 2 games of the year. Previously was the tight ends coach in Green Bay.
There's also an article, speaking of offensive coordinators, Mike LaFleur, who is being considered by a variety of different teams at this point, formerly of the Jets. Did you see this report from The Athletic?
I was about to bring that up.
Jets wide receiver Elijah Moore told offensive coordinator Mike LaFleur,
who has been fired,
quote, "Go bleep yourself, go buck yourself, and you suck," after a targetless Week 6 game midseason. Can you imagine? I mean, football players are passionate. We've seen moments on sidelines that may seem more controversial than they actually are to people who don't know how heated these guys get on the sidelines. We just don't necessarily have them all mic'd up and on camera at every given moment. But Elijah Moore's in his second year. For a second-year player who's done absolutely nothing.
Well, and who had complained to the media. Like, this is not surprising, right? When Elijah Moore talks about the lack of targets he's getting in locker room availability after games.
Well, he was talking more specifically about the quarterback. He was asked, well, at least he was asked.
About chemistry.
More specifically with the quarterback, why aren't you getting the targets? And he said, I don't know.
No, he was asked about chemistry and was saying, I don't know, there is none. I'm not getting the football. Like something along those lines.
But for a second-year wide receiver whose accomplishments are nil, playing for a franchise that has done nothing really until this year, and even that was, borderline. for him to walk up to his OC and say, go bleep yourself and you suck after not getting a target halfway through the season is laugh out loud funny. I just can't imagine a dynamic like that existing on this particular coaching staff here in Tennessee. But, temperatures run hot from time to time. Meanwhile, let's talk about some quarterbacks whose situations in the future could be determined by this weekend's game. So the lineup for the 4 divisional round games. Open up Chiefs at Jags at Chiefs, rather. Then you have the Giants at the Eagles. Your Sunday games are the Bengals at the Bills. And then the nightcap on Sunday Night Football is Cowboys at Niners. So of those 8 franchises, the quarterbacks who you consider secure in their position beyond 2022, or I guess 2023 postseason now, of the 8, you would say that Joe Burrow is in no danger of having, being thought of as they need another quarterback. The Bengals' quarterback situation is secure. Mahomes, Lawrence on a rookie deal for sure. Josh Allen on his second contract. Dak, there's no discussion around the Cowboys moving on from Dak anytime soon. He just got a big money deal. But Dak's turnovers this year were a legitimate problem, and now he's coming off the best performance I think I've ever seen him play.
That feels like more of a potential impact on the head coaching situation in Dallas than it would personnel.
Agreed. So Philadelphia with Jalen Hurts, New York with Daniel Jones, San Francisco with Brock Purdy are the other 3. Now, Jalen Hurts, I think, has acquitted himself very, very well to be able to get a second contract in Philadelphia. He did everything possible that they asked him to do, even as going so far as to play through injury. So then the question becomes, all right, they didn't pick up Daniel Jones' 5th-year option in New York this year. Is Daniel Jones the future of the New York Giants at quarterback, or do things change when they have to start paying him? He's going to make $35 million a year on a second deal. Baseline. That's what the asking price should be. For a quarterback who is coming off the statistical performance that he's having and now having playoff success, and he and Saquon contributing to a massive turnaround for a franchise that has been down bad for, really since the Super Bowl run. They haven't done anything. The last Super Bowl run.
The Giants?
The Giants.
Well, yeah, they just won their first playoff game since that Super Bowl run.
Oh, really? Is that true?
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily the Super Bowl run, but first playoff win since Eli Manning was there.
Tough. So then it's Daniel Jones and Brock Purdy. Now, you feel infinitely better about Daniel Jones. Do you? I don't know.
I don't know that you can say that.
They're both kind of flash in the pan type situations, but both are absolutely nobody has had a better stretch of football in the last month and a half than Daniel Jones and Brock Purdy. Not a single quarterback in the sport.
Unless Brock Purdy has a complete collapse in this game this weekend, that has got to be the conversation in San Francisco all summer, right? 49er fans screaming about Trey Lance or Brock Purdy.
Yeah, because, Jimmy's an unrestricted free agent, and it feels like Kyle Shanahan's actively hated Jimmy Garoppolo since they signed him.
The Jimmy G era is over in San Francisco.
One would assume.
It's probably safe to say. So, obviously, by default, not just the Brock Purdy situation, but the Trey Lance situation is directly impacted by what could happen this weekend.
It's just crazy that's how much better the offense looks with Brock Purdy just because he can move, and Jimmy can't. They can't run those boot outs with Jimmy. He's incredible. I don't think of him as stiff necessarily, but he's not mobile.
Well, you know who else can move?
Daniel Jones.
Trey Lance.
Dual threat quarterback Daniel Jones.
Trey Lance.
Well, Trey Lance can also, but he got hurt in the second game of the season.
Okay, that's fair. But it's a fact that the best version of the Niners offense this year is with Brock Purdy at quarterback.
Yeah, they had to go back to Jimmy very, very early. And so I don't know that the best – I know that the best version of the San Francisco 49ers offense this season is absolutely Brock Purdy, indisputable.
They've been the number one offense in the league since Purdy became the starter.
And also Trey Lance did not have Christian McCaffrey.
No, he didn't.
Was Kittle Kittle dealt with
Yeah,
some
Kittle was
stuff
dealing with a lot of stuff early in the year. I mean,
at the
Kittle
start of the season,
Yeah.
and Debo missed time towards the end of the year. So Trey Lance, because people are already starting in the YouTube chat, Trey Lance to the Titans. No, they are. Do you know how much capital they gave up to get Trey Lance? They are not going to trade Trey Lance. If anything, they roll into the future with Trey Lance and Brock Purdy at quarterback, and it's probably Trey Lance's job to lose.
You know what Brock Purdy's making this year? Can you tell me as the last pick of the draft? What his base salary is this season in the year
just
where
the base salary.
the base salary in a year where he has the Niners as the number one offense in the league going into the divisional round.
Like $400K?
700.
Oh, really?
700K. Yeah.
400 probably like for undrafted dudes.
Yeah. Like minimum, right? But
700K though, man, that's pennies.
for a starting quarterback in the NFL divisional round.
That is
For
pennies
the
on
best
the dollar.
offense in the league right now. That's insanity. You do get a lot of free stuff, though, as Mr. Irrelevant.
It's do you?
Well, whatever like a Disney trip is worth or whatever you get. Like, yeah, you get a bunch of stuff.
You get things for being.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I had no idea.
Oh, yeah. You get a bunch of free. You get like a free trips, like a free vacation somewhere.
What?
Yeah. So whatever the net.
Just to make them feel better about the fact that they're going to trot them out in a jersey that says Mr. Irrelevant in front of the entire nationally televised draft audience?
Yeah, whatever the net worth of the vacations you get as Mr. Irrelevant for free, add that to Brock Purdy's salary.
Well, let's head into the actual playoff discussion. We talked about the NFC divisional round games earlier, so we'll pivot and take a look at the AFC divisional rounds. And everybody's darling, dare I say, America's team, the Jacksonville Jaguars, coming up next. Welcome back. 615-737-1045. You can jump in at any point. So, before we talk, well, actually, we'll save the Jeremy Fowler thing, right? Isn't that what we decided, Lucas? Jeremy Fowler on the morning show having some insights on the Titans offensive coordinator search. Of course, he of ESPN. Meanwhile, AFC divisional round games on the horizon. Jags at the Chiefs. And then you have the Bengals at the Bills, the game that never was for obvious reasons during the regular season. But now we will get the opportunity to see that play out in real time. Now, I think there is such a small percentage chance that the Jaguars go to Arrowhead and win. And the Chiefs and Jags have played earlier this season. Kansas City, they were at Kansas City earlier in the year, about halfway through the season. They lost 27-17. It definitely wasn't a great Patrick Mahomes performance. There was a it was basically all KC all the time. They had 486 yards of offense. They did turn the ball over at a considerable rate. They had 3 turnovers. Jags did not. But they simply overwhelmed Jacksonville. And the Jags defense in particular is not that good. So, and really not that good on third down, which is a killer in a lot of circumstances, but in particular, a killer against the Chiefs. Now, I said earlier, kind of ribbing you guys that the Jacksonville Jaguars are all of a sudden turned into America's team. And our friend Lindsay tweets us, every time Buck Rising has to say the Jags are America's darling or team, I puke a little in my mouth. I don't have to say it, I guess. But would we not consider this year's Jags team the closest thing to last year's Bengals team that was America's darling?
Yeah, the Cinderella, right? As much of a Cinderella as you can have in the NFL postseason.
Right.
It's unquestionably Jacksonville. Individually, it's Brock Purdy, without a doubt. But
I can't help if you hate the Jags.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that they ended your football season.
Well, your entire audience hates the Jags, so.
No, I know. That's what I'm not saying. I'm
Something
not
to keep
talking
in
to
mind.
you. I'm talking to them. Don't be so self-involved.
Buck Rising telling me not to be self-involved. You hear that, Bert?
You have to leave the microphone on long enough for me to get his off-mic laughter. Doesn't work. But yeah, they kind of are. You can't tell me that you didn't enjoy, no matter how much you hate the Jags, that you didn't enjoy watching the Jags come back against the Chargers that way. What, Robert?
Yo, pot calling the kettle black over there. What's going on, Mr. Self-Absorbed?
What is that? What are you doing there?
Yeah, whose voice is that?
That was my look what we have here voice. Somebody's doing something you knew they would do. What that voice is.
See, but I do voices too, and I don't know why they do them. Like when I'm reading something in my Twitter mentions, like the voice of my Twitter mentions, I make to sound like an idiot.
It's not an impression of someone, but it's an impression of what you imagine that person sounds like in your head.
For sure. Every time I talk about my mom, she sounds like, "Why are you doing this? Why are you always?" But she doesn't sound like that for real. That's just what you attribute to that person.
You mean like a witch? What are you talking about? What is that?
I don't know.
What are you doing to your mother?
What's your
there?
mom's voice? What's your mom's voice? When you're telling something that your mom told you on the phone, what's your mom's voice?
Well, and Karen's been on the show, so people are familiar with
people have heard my mother's voice.
Buck, why are you always doing a radio show? Why don't you ever call me? What's her voice?
Okay. You know how I talk and you say you get upset with me when I use words that you don't understand? It's my mother, but with a Georgetown degree.
So she's like, Buck, your gender is too ambiguity. I don't know. I try to use big words.
What happened there?
Dude, I'm not smart. At no point would you listen to me talking and you think, dang, that dude did good on his PSAT.
The sentence happens and then comes out of his mouth before the brain decides what to say. You know what I mean?
Lucas is the speaker for me. He is my representation. You're not going to give us your mom's voice. I
can't do my mom's voice.
It's not your mom's voice. It's what you do with your mom's voice.
I don't do anything with my mom's voice because she would actually take my life imitated her on the radio.
Here's my dad. Hey, well, how's that radio going? You ever gonna pick a real job like being an electrician? That's my dad. That's my dad. You have voices for everybody, dude. I know you do. Everybody does it.
I don't do voices
I'm
like
Buck
that.
Rising, and I have a radio show with my name.
It's getting closer and closer to Joey Bosa.
Why can't
I need to be more accountable for my actions, obviously, but it's a heated game. I think there just needs to be more accountability on, if I say something to them, I get a $40,000 fine, but if they blow a call that ruins an entire team's season, they're probably back in the locker room after the game like, got that. Oh, yeah, got him. 15 yards, what a loser. I guarantee it. That's what they're fucking talking like.
Joey Bosa sounds like I do when I first wake up in the morning, when I'm like starting to like rev the thing up a little bit.
100%.
I'm way down here when I'm talking before I wake up in the morning. That's my Joey Bosa voice.
Oddly enough, that's how me and Lucas speak back here of you. Like, got that guy. Yeah, 15-yard idiot. We ruined his whole show.
That loser.
I believe it. Speaking of losers and the Chargers, who are, synonymous to a certain extent, did you two see this clip from Brandon Staley yesterday talking about, he was asked if he got outcoached by Doug Peterson?
A tone-deaf comment of the year from a head coach?
It may well be. Ron Rivera not knowing that a loss that he took directly knocked them out of the postseason until people in the press conference afterwards had to tell him that. That's a pretty good nominee. But Brandon Staley meeting with Los Angeles media on their locker room cleanout day, being asked if Doug Peterson outcoached him and giving this response is, it's a Thursday, but it is the dumbest thing in sports this week.
Brandon, you feel like you were outcoached by Peterson, and how much did that lead to the loss?
Oh, Bill, I thought it was a tight game. I thought that for a half, I wouldn't say that was the case for a half. I think at the end of the game, that team that we were playing showed a lot of fight, a lot of resilience. I thought it was a high-quality game against two teams that are both young and hungry. And so I thought it was just a high-level game all the way around. And so I think Doug's an outstanding coach, and I know that we were coaching at a high level, and hopefully we're going to get another chance at those guys.
Not for a half, I wasn't. Idiot.
Yeah,
loser.
If I'm a Chargers fan, I want to hear, yes, we were outcoached. We lost the game. Don't give me the not for a half.
People get pissed at Vrabel when he does the coach, give them credit, got to coach better, play better thing. But, that is better than saying what Brandon Staley said. You cannot get up in front of the media corps, speaking to the media, but to the media or to the fans through the media, and say, yeah, not for a half we weren't. We were killing it. We were up 27-0. And to remind them that they blew the 27-0 lead.
Honey, you burnt the roast. Yeah, but didn't you see how well I prepped it? God, in the first half, man, that thing was looking good in the oven. Yeah, then you fell asleep on the couch, dude. There's smoke in the kitchen. You burnt the roast, Staley.
Oh, you know what's worse? He's vegan.
You burnt the cauliflower.
He gave them all. You want to talk about unrelatable? I know we have moments where we've got to make me more relatable, which is a heavy lift. But the moments that Brandon Staley has so there is a frustration around local NFL media contingents, no matter what market you're in, with TV people. Okay, local TV people, and I love all my friends that work in local TV, but there is a tendency, and I'm not calling out anybody specifically, but there's a tendency around the holidays to do things that work on local television, like ask Mike Vrabel what his favorite Thanksgiving dish is. Now, I'm not saying that that's happened this year. That's something that is known to be a thing with local TV people. Brandon Staley was asked something to that effect this year, and it went viral because his answer was something like tofurkey. And he went through all the details of how they avoid meat on Thanksgiving in the Staley household, and making him sound even more like a numbers robot and completely unrelatable to the rest of society than any other human I think that works in the sport.
Well, he works in Los Angeles.
Well, sure. LA
that's a fit.
LA will change you.
Yeah.
LA will change you.
Who is it in the YouTube chat? Shane says Joey Bosa sounds like he's in one of those murder shows and they're trying to hide his identity.
Joey Bosa is deep throat. He's deep throat. It really, he sounds like one of those people. That is, Shane, we don't have anything to give you, but like, that is the best comment that we'll see today because he absolutely sounds like somebody whose voice, especially the longer that clip goes, where it starts to inexplicably get even lower when he's starting to mutter things about what the refs are saying about him in closed doors or behind closed doors. Like, that sounds like somebody whose voice has changed on a 60 Minutes profile where they're trying not to have the Russian government find out who they are.
It's a piece of art, that quote from Joey Bosa, because it's the way it begins and then crescendos into undoing everything that he did off the top about talking about needing to be more accountable for his actions, and referees need more accountability, and then devolving into referees joking about losers and 15-yard flags.
Somebody, Sunset Chaser on Twitter tweets us and said that clip of Joey Bosa sounds like he came out of Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Spicoli? Is that the
Spicoli?
Yeah, that's
wow, a pop culture reference from Buck.
It was in the YouTube chat. I stole it.
You're a cheater.
615-737-1045. Eric is in Nashville. Hey, Eric.
Hey, guys, I don't know if you just saw this. I just saw this a few minutes ago on Colin Cowherd. He is reporting that apparently, because he was talking about Brock Purdy and his starting job with the 49ers, it appears that he may have won the starting job. Of course, they think Garoppolo's gone, and he may have taken it from Trevor Lance. But Trevor Lance, this is, according to him, sent out a very cryptic tweet saying that he would love to come here to Nashville to play for the Tennessee Titans. That is according to Colin Cowherd.
Oh, no.
We did so well to avoid this yesterday. Now, is he saying that Trey Lance tweeted something cryptically? Eric's still on the line. Eric, did Trey Lance tweet something?
Yeah. I didn't hear the whole story, but I don't know what the tweet was or whatever. But that's according to him. He just said that Trey Lance sent out a very cryptic tweet because apparently the situation with Brock Purdy and the way he's playing, and he may have taken the starting job from Trey Lance. And basically, if he's lost his starting job, that he would love to come here to Nashville to play for the Titans. I mean, I guess you could find it or whatever, but that was according to Cowherd. I didn't catch the whole thing. I just saw it on a few minutes ago. He's now doing his Third Line News, but that's according to him.
I appreciate Eric simulcasting Colin Cowherd while listening to us. Thank you very much for the time, Eric.
It's the Instagram post.
It's the Instagram post because I'm looking at Trey Lance's Twitter. His last tweet is at Lamar Jackson from December 16th, and it just says respect, period.
We did this yesterday. We don't need to. And Eric is the man. Eric is a Hall of Fame caller on this station, but no. Fingers crossed emoji just means good luck. That's all it was.
That's the actual Stephen A. Smith. I don't care. Good luck. So, Chiefs not in danger, I don't feel like, of getting upset by Jacksonville this weekend. Although, if you can throw 4 interceptions, go down -5 in the turnover differential, come back to beat a team that had you down 27-0, I don't think you can discount Jacksonville entirely. It's just a lot of heavy lifting at this point. Cincinnati seems like they have the opportunity to upset the Bills. I mean, since Von Miller, it feels like forever since Von Miller's played for the Bills, dealing with that ACL tear in the middle of the season. And Micah Hyde are not on that defense. That pass rush has fallen off considerably without Von Miller. They struggled to get pressure on the quarterback, and obviously Cincinnati, it sounds like, is going to start at least 2 backup offensive linemen in this game, and we know that Cincinnati's offensive line was not that great to begin with. But I objectively think the Bengals are a better team right now, even as Josh Allen is the physically more talented quarterback and just goes out there and, Josh Allen plays football like an 8th grader with Josh Allen's arm might. That's what that's the vibe that I get. He's I think Josh Allen is my favorite player to watch in football. Do you guys have a better one? I think objectively Josh Allen is my favorite player to just watch him go out there and do bat bleep crazy things.
I don't know. I'm more into smut. I think I like Justin Fields. I like watching bad teams with good players. Dude, he ran all over everybody this year. If you like watching a dude run all over everybody, then I don't know. Maybe not throwing the ball, but when that dude takes off, it's like watching a deer in the open field, man. That's what I'm here for. I'm here for the bad, good football.
Did you refer to that as smut?
I did.
Lucas?
I think I'm with you on Allen. Although Mahomes is an easy cop-out there because the Chiefs just look like they're on a playground sometimes, especially when they're just playing with their food like they were in that Raiders game.
That was the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life, and they scored a touchdown off of it.
And just so entertaining. And it got called back, right? Didn't it get called back when they did the
For
little
a lame holding penalty on Trey Smith,
You
which
can't call
honestly, it was no. You got to let that one ride. Somebody tweeted, and I can't remember who it was.
It was for people that don't know the little like merry-go-round dance thing they did in the huddle, where they're
literally
just going
a ring around the rosy as they broke the huddle.
Yeah,
and then it was who was because it was Mahomes like in the backfield. He wasn't the quarterback.
No, did Pacheco throw the ball?
I need to have
remember,
the play in front of me.
The way they broke the huddle perfectly into formation is it's art.
I can't, and I wish that I remembered who tweeted this because I want to give them proper credit. It may be the best tweet that I've seen all year, but it was something to the effect of, I think Andy Reid just gets high and comes up with play concepts. but gets baked and comes up with play concepts.
Eats cheeseburgers by the dozen.
He literally he's got a side of cheeseburger edibles.
There's just mushrooms. There's mushrooms in the cheeseburger.
There's money.
Yeah.
There you go.
But I think I'm with you.
He's got one of those magic mushroom chocolate bars as his dessert.
But the Allen thing also makes sense because that potential for disaster that just kind of lingers is also a massively entertaining part of his game because it is there. It is very much there. It was there in the Miami game.
Oh, yeah. No, he would. I mean, he needs to. If there was one criticism that I have of Josh Allen, it's that he needs to do what Mahomes did this year. Mahomes is playing the quarterback position more efficiently and more in rhythm than at any point I can remember since Pat came into the league. It's less frenetic. It's less, bleep it, Tyreek's down there. Josh still has a lot of that. And by the way, you don't want to coach that stuff out of him because and I'm not a coach, obviously, so I don't know what the dynamic of working with somebody like Mahomes or Allen is, where there are instincts that make those dudes unbelievably special. But also there's some disaster plays that Josh has obviously gotten better with, but still has the potential to make. And also is still launching 70-yard passes down the field with an ulnar nerve injury, which is basically nerve damage in your elbow.
But especially in the run game with Allen, because no quarterback, and it's a huge part of his game, but no quarterback runs more recklessly, would you say, than Josh Allen, or appears to run more recklessly than Josh Allen? So it's just an interesting thing to see. It's a unique thing in the league to see a quarterback running with that reckless abandon that Josh Allen runs with. And again, just that possibility of disaster makes it more entertaining.
Nash Vegas tweets us, Joey Bosa sounds like he and Mike McDaniel are hotboxing a 2009 Civic. Not a single laugh from either of you?
This close.
What's the connection with? I don't understand with McDaniel. Is it just because?
Me neither. Maybe he means Staley. I don't know.
You can't tell me that dude don't look like he throws a beanie on and gets in the back and lets a smoke pillow out of the cracked window.
Where it's
maybe not a Honda Civic, but maybe
talking
like
about Bosa.
Yeah.
No,
McDaniel.
Oh,
That dude
McDaniel,
looks like
yeah.
he puts on whatever.
No, he looks
McDaniel hits his vape on the sideline.
Allegedly.
We don't know what that was, man. That might have just been a hard drive. Everybody's done that from time to time, Buck. Let's not go out here.
What, sucked a hard drive? Relax back there.
I think he could have been blowing into his hands because it was cold. But yeah, Mike McDaniel looks like he could have been cast on Dazed and Confused.
We were supposed to break down the divisional game.
I think we did a fine job.
Can you shadows? I've got stuff to do, man.
Back to the shadows.
Well, hang on. Let me tell you a joke first. What does a baby computer call its father?
I don't know, Robert.
Data.
Got a break. Happy birthday, Dolly. Makes me very happy that we can play a variety of different things. Let's just go the rest of the way, Dolly Parton. How about that? 615-737-1045 is how you join the conversation. Getting to some Titans OC search stuff and Greg Cosell on new GM Ran Carthon here in just a moment. Meanwhile, there's two things that are a cardinal sin in the state of Tennessee. Lucas, you'll correct me if there's a third that I'm forgetting. One is anything slanderous about Dolly Parton. Two is gaslighting Vols fans. I feel like those are the two things that you have to be most careful about when you are in the state of Tennessee, operating with things around the state of Tennessee, because those are the most volatile reactions that you will have. Yes?
Unless you're a Vols fan gaslighting yourself, in which case it's okay.
Well, yeah, they have oftentimes been guilty of that, no doubt. But that is what that is what we are accusing On3 Sports of doing, all right? Because, Lucas, I need you to say, I'm not a recruiting rankings person. I will pay attention to it, obviously, with things like Nico. I'll go to Elite 11 when Trent Dilfer was holding it here locally just because I'm curious, and we have the high school football segment. So from that standpoint, I think it's always good to understand where these guys are coming from and the process that they go through. But beyond that, like, recruiting is not something that I'm following day to day. On3 is a recent media company that is doing similar work in the world of recruiting, specifically college athletics. They do a lot with NIL as well, and the reporting around it, much like 24/7 Sports and CBS. Well, I guess 24/7 CBS owns 24/7, and ESPN to a lesser degree. What do people need to know about On3's latest recruiting rankings or recruit rankings?
Well, the big headline was they put out their player rankings, and at the top of that list, the number one overall player in the country, according to On3 Sports, is not Arch Manning. In fact, it's Nico Iamaleava, the Tennessee early enrollee who is on campus now in Knoxville. So I looked into this, and Charles Power, and On3 Sports has some really good recruiting analysts. They have a lot of guys that have been in the recruiting coverage game for a very long time, and it's gotten to the point where I think it is a very reliable source, especially when kind of wading into the NIL side of things. That it's really hard to gauge, but On3 is kind of the first to really do that when talking about NIL evaluations and prospects. But they rank Nico the number one overall player in the country. And the reasoning from Charles Power, this is the column from him, is Nico Iamaleava has the most physical ability and upside, given the amount of projection required with Nico and Arch Manning, along with the very even play on Friday nights. We view Iamaleava's superior physical ability as a key separator. He says Iamaleava has palpable arm talent with a whippy, quick release and the arm strength to drive the ball downfield with ease. Having seen both in person this fall, he has the clear edge in that department. Still, Manning has some of the better arms in the cycle, noticeably added velocity as a senior. But he says an area where Iamaleava separates himself is reaction to pressure. As a quick, reactive athlete who has shown the ability to evade pass rushers and blitzers in a split second, an area where Arch Manning did not fare well as a high school senior. He took an inordinate amount of sacks this fall. Power goes on to say On3 charted him as being sacked 30 times this past season, Arch Manning.
So that is not the area where I'm accusing them of gaslighting Vols fans, because I do think, that is sound analysis based on everything we know about Nico Iamaleava.
And meanwhile, you have ESPN rating him like a 4-star and outside the top 30 in players in the country.
Okay.
Quite a discrepancy.
You have told me before that ESPN, when it comes to recruiting rankings, is regarded as one of the least not credible. Not
the go-to, for sure. Though we love our guy, Tom Luganbill. He does a great job.
Well, Tom is different. Tom is not responsible for the recruiting rankings. Tom is as informed and as connected in the world of college recruiting as anybody in the business.
But I was more surprised to see in their rankings where they have the number 45 player in the country as 4-star wide receiver Nathan Leacock out of North Carolina, the Tennessee signee, ahead of the number 47 overall player in the country per On3, Carnell Tate, the Ohio State wide receiver prospect. I thought that was interesting just because Tate, and I'm not going to act like I've been doing tape study of these guys. Everybody at On3 Sports has been doing far more work evaluating these guys than either you or I have. But Carnell Tate has been viewed as a blue-chip prospect for this entire cycle that Tennessee has certainly targeted, while Nathan Laycock was more of just kind of a nice find out of the North Carolina area, a good speedy option for Tennessee at wide receiver. So that was far more surprising to me, was to see a guy like Nathan Laycock ranked in the top 50 and ahead of a guy like Carnell Tate.
So they're gaslighting Vols fans, yeah? You have to be.
Well,
what are you doing out here?
There's a lot of Vols fans out there.
Sure.
So maybe you would do well to serve that community like we do.
Oh, I do. Buddy, I completely sell out all the time. I put on the baseball shirt. Our friends from Rowdy Lou gave me the Vols colored crew neck that I wore in, what Slay is accusing me of now bringing my bad sports juju to the Tennessee Vols after they lost to Kentucky while I was actively repping them on a day when Indiana basketball played and won, by the way.
No.
When I didn't wear my Indiana stuff. I'm on to you. This is how I'm going to have a good basketball season. Is just going to keep wearing Vols stuff, so hopefully Indiana wins. And, unfortunately for Tennessee fans, you're stuck with me now. But, there is some of this that, and again, I can't pretend to know how the world of recruiting rankings work. It is as grimy a business as any that we have in sports. It is as untruthful a business as any we have in sports. And it is a complicated one with a variety of different parts on a much, much larger scale than anything I deal with in the NFL. But what you say about the wide receivers there, that I think is something that, because On3 is based out of Tennessee, right? Like that's a Tennessee, that's a state of Tennessee company.
Yeah, Shannon Terry, who's been on 3HL, was the founder of 247 Sports, kind of a pioneer in the recruiting business.
So I don't know Shannon personally. He's obviously very, very successful at what he's done business-wise. But I would have to if I'm a website editor at On3 and I'm like, maybe you bumped the Vols recruit a little over the Ohio State guy.
Well, that just sounds like good business.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
So
I
can't fault them for doing good business.
Yeah, ESPN's rating of players is far more egregious than something like that, with obviously limited resources that ESPN has dedicated to recruiting relative to the rest of the things they do. But not in recruiting, but in the transfer portal, Tennessee did get some big news today as Gabe Judy, a corner prospect in the portal, announced on his Instagram that he is headed to Tennessee. Former BYU cornerback, also a former Vanderbilt cornerback who actually has intercepted a Tennessee quarterback before. In, I believe, the 2020 season, picked off JT Shrout in a Tennessee win at what is now First Bank Field.
Forgot about JT Shrout.
On West End. Yes, who, by the way, is in the portal as well. He was at Colorado.
And, that's right.
And, Prime's doing his thing up there, so Shrout's looking for a
he's
new
one
home.
of the guys who Prime said, get out of town.
I don't know if Prime told JT Shrout to get out of town, but JT Shrout is in the portal for the second time in his career. So, massive corner pickup for Tennessee, who really didn't look like was adding any talent there other than in recruiting, which they have some guys. Jordan Matthews, the number one corner prospect that Tennessee has brought in, expected to make a quick impact. But any news is good news on that front. You know what I mean? For Tennessee in the defensive backfield. And I think this certainly qualifies. Gabe Judy, the former BYU Cougar, makes the second former BYU defensive player as Peely, the linebacker, who's racked up tackles for BYU the last 2 years, also will be a Tennessee Volunteer in 2023. Portal's been active today. How about Lane Kiffin, man?
All the quarterbacks.
Portal King. Jackson Dart hadn't left. Jackson Dart's looking around the QB room like, hey, I'm still here. And Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss have added Walker Howard, the former blue-chip quarterback of LSU, and most recently Spencer Sanders, a very experienced quarterback, a 4-year starter out of Oklahoma State. So suddenly the Ole Miss quarterback room, very crowded in Oxford.
I would not call Lane Kiffin the Portal King because...
Well, he calls himself that.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, that's the whole thing. He's the portal. It was last year. He tweeted like a graphic of the Tiger King, but it's Kiffin, and he's the Portal King.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, it's great marketing by Kiffin.
No, Lane is just better at that than anybody. The actual Portal King is Lincoln Riley. Yeah, because he's at it again. I mean, defensively, whatever they end up doing defensively is going to be a big question for USC.
And retaining their defensive coordinator, by the way, Alex Grinch.
Wild, given what we know about Lincoln Riley's history. But Lincoln Riley is the actual Portal King. That dude is cleaning up yet again at USC. We will, let's get into the Titans offensive coordinator search. An interesting note dropped by Jeremy Fowler of ESPN this morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. And Greg Cosell's analysis of the new Titans GM coming up next.
It is 12:02. Good afternoon from the Superbook.com Sports Desk. I'm Lucas Panzica. The Tennessee Titans are heading across the pond in the 2023 season. It was announced this morning the Titans are a designated team to play in London in 2023 along with the Bills and the Jaguars. Titans will be playing in Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. That's what we know. What we don't know is the opponent and the date. That will be determined with the NFL's schedule release. Around the NFL, the Tampa Bay Bucks have fired offensive coordinator Byron Leftwich, and Tennessee football, the Vols, add a transfer portal addition and experienced former BYU corner Gabe Judy, former three-star prospect out of high school that initially started his college football career with Vanderbilt. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once in your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Final hour. What's happening? Welcome into 104.5 The Zone. Great vibes on this Thursday. Hope you're driving around in the sunshine, windows down, hanging out with us. We're happy to have you. Robert, Lucas, and myself. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in on the conversation. Would love to have you. Speaking of which, the Titans would love to have an offensive coordinator here in the near future. They have requested interviews with guys like Charles London. They have inquired with Chiefs OC Eric Bieniemy, who's focused on head coaching jobs right now. Oh, is Robert back there? They just fired Greg Roman. The Ravens did.
Wow, really?
Yeah, that's a big one.
That's another offensive coordinator opening.
God bless. No NFL fan base likes their offensive coordinator, I'm convinced.
Well, the Steelers don't either, but they are keeping Matt Canada.
Oh, this is interesting. It's a statement from his agency, not from the team. Greg Roman to pursue other opportunities is a state. So, Athletes First is the name of the agency. How interesting. He's stepping down as the offensive coordinator. So I guess that's not a firing. And the representation for Greg Roman got out there first in PR spin mode. But yeah, okay. Another OC hits the market literally as we get ready to talk about the team here that's looking for one. So you got options out there.
You officially add the Bucks and the Ravens now to that list and when we were talking about yesterday, the best situations for a potential offensive coordinator candidate.
I believe that takes it to 10.
Yeah, if you include like head coaching changes, right, where it's assumed that a new OC will be in play.
Yeah. By the way, have you seen what Carolina's doing? Carolina's interviewing defensive coordinator candidates without having a head coach, which I can only assume they're trying to do to lure Sean Payton. Because Sean Payton that's the one thing that he's going to want is a DC because he's going to call the plays and run the offense.
Have they officially fired Steve Wilkes? He's still the interim, right?
Yeah, but they're like requesting interviews with defensive coordinator candidates and interviewing head coach, like trying to get interviews with head coaching candidates.
That could also, Wilkes has got to be a candidate, right? With the way they finished.
For them, yeah. He interviewed, and obviously, the whole how Matt Rule got fired like 4 games in, right? It was pretty early. He was the first one off the board, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think he was the first.
Either way. So Greg Roman added to the list. Now, so they have requested interviews with Matt Nagy, with Eric Bieniemy, with Charles London, with Justin Uten, however you pronounce the name of the Broncos offensive coordinator, who, by the way, Broncos absolutely killed it after they fired Hackett offensively, which is crazy to think about.
The best they looked all year.
So here's, and this is courtesy of our buddy Zach Lyons, Broncos offense before Uten, overall 30th EPA per play, 31st in success rate. Broncos offense with Uten, not without Uten. Overall 10th in EPA, 16th in success rate.
Now you are talking about 15 games versus 2 games.
Sure.
But
that
still,
matters.
yeah, they took a huge jump. I mean, they
had their highest scoring output of the season.
And they did that immediately.
Yeah.
I mean, the first game after Hackett was fired, they go toe-to-toe with the Chiefs, and then they beat the Chargers, right? Did they win that game against L.A.?
At the end of the year?
Yeah.
Yes, I believe that's correct. Either way. So, let's hear from Jeremy Fowler on the Titans offensive coordinator search, because there's plenty of candidates out there. But apparently, the market just continues to get saturated.
Certainly Tim Kelly's a strong candidate. I've gotten some sense that Matt Nagy with the Chiefs, I don't know if they've talked yet. I do expect him to be a prime candidate just over the next week or so. Mike Vrabel seems intrigued by the Chiefs offense. Either he's just trying to get ideas from the Chiefs by talking to Chiefs people, or he actually wants to implement some of the system, It's one of the two. Eric Bieniemy is up for it, but he's at least been requested. My understanding is he's focused more on the head coach opportunities first. But maybe if there's a chance to run an offense on his own, with an established organization. So there'll be some other names in the mix. And you know what? I got my master list here.
I'm sure.
That's it. Hey, Charles London, I expect. And that's really the four right now. I wonder about Bill O'Brien a little bit because he is close to Mike Vrabel. Everybody I talk to expects him to go to the Patriots. So I don't think that's a done deal, but it sounds like that's the way it's trending.
So Matt Nagy was requested. Fowler is saying that he doesn't know whether the request has been accepted yet, but that Matt Nagy, as a member of the Chiefs offensive coaching staff for a second time in his NFL career, is someone who Mike Vrabel is very interested in because the Chiefs offense is obviously very interesting. Now, Andy Reid at the top of that thing, Eric Bieniemy under him, and then Matt Nagy as the quarterback's coach and pass game coordinator. Those are three different roles, and those three individuals regarded in different ways. I think Matt Nagy is still carrying around the stink of Chicago with him, but that wasn't Matt Nagy's first quarterback in Chicago, Mike Glennon, or something to that effect.
I don't know that was his first. Wasn't he coach of the year?
He was coach of the year.
Was that his first year?
Yeah, with Trubisky. I'm pretty sure that was 19 or 18. Either way, Matt Nagy is interesting at this stage. Jael asks, does the new general manager have say in offensive coordinator? I mean, I'm sure he has thoughts, but I don't necessarily know that that's something that he's going to, Mike has final say on that as far as putting together his staff is concerned. So I have no interest in Greg Roman. Greg Roman runs a very specific kind of offense, as he did for Colin Kaepernick, as he did for Lamar Jackson. And while Greg Roman did deal with a variety of different issues as far as injury were concerned in the last 2 seasons, the Greg Roman experience does have a shelf life, even though he's been a successful person in the league for a long time. I think I'm okay on that. Now, how much, the Titans value him, and they've played against him before, I just don't know necessarily that you have to be a certain kind of creative to come up with the run game that Greg Roman did around Kaepernick and Lamar, but those are two very specific kinds of players whose mobility is the thing that you can build everything else around. And, beyond that, if you don't have those kind of players, I don't know how much more creative you can get with the run game and hope to make it look like Baltimore or the Niners at the time. Regardless, I think that the offensive coordinator search is a fascinating one. And it plays into a variety of different things because now that obviously Carthon is in place as GM, they have moved forward and they'll have the conversation. We'll carry the press conference for you live tomorrow at noon with the new Titans general manager. It does not say in our email whether Vrabel or Amy Adams Strunk, either or, will be in attendance, but I would assume one, if not both, would be there. We will see. I shouldn't assume. I should probably just send a text, so I'll do that. But I think at this stage, the offensive coordinator search is, this is one of the most pivotal jobs, if not most attractive jobs, one of the most pivotal jobs that I think are out there, given where the roster is at right now, what the division is currently, and how much of a difference it would just make if they could get even average NFL offense off the ground, because they were so far below this year in so many different categories. And still, Even if you don't want to say they were competitive till the end, they were competitive until the very end with an opportunity to make it into the playoffs. So we will have more time to discuss that. In the meantime, let's get some Greg Cosell analysis on the new Titans general manager, Ran Carthon. By the way, teams that have offensive coordinator openings, and this does not, it does include the Cardinals, who fired their head coach, who also is their de facto OC. Ravens, Bucks, Chargers, Commanders, Titans, Rams, Jets, Pats, Colts, and Cardinals. We are now at 10. A lot of candidates, a lot of job openings, a lot of interesting franchises competing for many of the same names. Have more on that later. GM Talk next. Welcome back. So, new general manager Ran Carthon going to speak tomorrow. We're going to go through some transactions that he is directly tied to that have helped make the 49ers such a rousing success from a roster standpoint. Now, obviously, to get the roster in place is one thing. To have the exceptional kind of coaching that the 49ers also have on both the offensive and defensive side of the football. Don't forget, DeMeco Ryans is getting head coaching interviews everywhere. I really do think he's the most popular name that I've heard around the NFL this cycle. I know that Frank Reich was probably up there for some people too, and offense is always going to garner, I think, more attention. But DeMeco Ryans, I think the latest I've seen is that he's interviewing with the Colts as Jim Irsay seeks to live out his further Mike Vrabel fetish by hiring former tough guy players like Jeff Saturday, who blows the biggest lead in the history of the NFL.
I don't know. I think it's just everyone wants in on that San Francisco action.
Oh, sure. But I also think that, Irsay had the opportunity to hire Vrabel in past for
McDaniels.
Josh McDaniels.
Yeah.
And that did not go well. Either way, DeMeco Ryans getting a lot of love from NFL job openings around the league right now. So a lot of people, Ran Carthon he was a player in the early 2000s, went on to work with the St. Louis/LA Rams organization in a scouting capacity and personnel role. Then has been with the 49ers for the better part of 2017, I believe, is when he landed in San Fran, and has been there ever since until, recently as Tuesday, officially becoming the Titans general manager. So now he's interacted with a lot of different people around the league. And I did not go into yesterday's podcast taping with Greg Cosell of NFL Films. The podcast is called The Install. Expecting to ask Greg, or for Greg to really know much about personnel executives that way, because that's not really what he does. He's a X's and O's film breakdown, tape study guy. But Greg, before we started taping, is like, hey, love Ran Carthon. Really worked with him in a couple of combines, liked him a lot, really think highly of the guy. And kind of was going on. I'm like, Greg, can we talk about this on the podcast? He's like, yeah, let's talk about it on the podcast. So here is Greg Cosell of NFL Films analyzing the new Titans GM.
Yeah, and also I'm fortunate enough to know Ran Carthon a little bit, spend a little time with him at the combines over the years. I think what's really interesting is where he's coming from, because he's been part of sort of the Kyle Shanahan group and the John Lynch group out with the 49ers. He's been there since 2017. And so I think when you look at what they do offensively, which I'm sure is the thing that fans of the Titans are thinking about offensively, what is it going to look like going forward? If they think about the Niners, they'd probably say, hey, if we could look like that to some degree, we'd be pretty good. So that's his most recent background, as I said, going back to 2017. And, again, you need people in place, but you always have to start with some kind of philosophy. Obviously, coaches always say, hey, you have to coach to the players you have. You can't force a philosophy, but you have to start with an approach, a philosophy, a methodology. And obviously, he's bringing that with him. That's what he knows well. That's his most recent last, 7 years. Mm-hmm. And I'll be very curious to see how he goes about kind of, building the team, because say what you want. The reality is they did lose, 7 in a row or 8 in a row to end the season?
Oh, it's 7 in a row, Greg. Don't put 8 on me.
Right. So, you can say what you want. They've been a good team. There's a lot of solid pieces in place. But as Bill Parcells always used to say, your record is what your record is. So they did lose 7 in a row. So you can try to sugarcoat that any way you want. But, obviously that's not good enough. And I think the offensive coordinator is going to be fascinating. I think that's going to say a lot as to, I don't want to say, look, Ran, from what I know of him, just personality-wise, I've never worked with him, so I can't speak to that. But I don't think he's a my way or the highway, So I'm very curious to see how it works with Mike and Ran in terms of choosing, an OC, because that is a really important position now on this team, how they're going to play going forward.
So that is Greg Cosell, a part of Greg Cosell's analysis yesterday on the podcast. Go check it out. We did a lot of work on the divisional round games for those of you X and O's junkies who want to continue to learn more about these teams participating in the playoffs and how they're going to match up against each other. So Lucas put together a list of transactions that are directly associated with Ran Carthon from the time that he arrived in the role of director of pro personnel through his circumstance where he was the director of player personnel recently before he was hired as the Titans GM.
And this is, like you said, based on what his job description was at the time and what the moves the Niners made in that span, and also straight from 49ers reporters.
Yeah.
Guys that know. David Lombardi of The Athletic, guys that have been around that organization that have listed out these names that basically fall under Carthon's job description in San Fran.
Now, before you read this list, let me again remind people what the role of director of pro personnel is versus the director of player personnel. The director of pro personnel, they report directly to the general manager. They are involved with dealing with players who are already in the league, obviously. The responsibilities include the bulk of contract negotiations with free agents, negotiating contract extensions with current players, scouting the other 31 NFL teams' rosters. Scouting other teams is where things typically get delegated amongst league scouts, advanced scouts, and things of that nature. So the director of pro personnel is very, very heavily involved in the free agency and contract negotiation portion of things. Now to the director of player personnel, they then oversee the director of pro personnel and additionally the college scouting process directly under the general manager. So in San Francisco, it's a 3-tiered system because they have John Lynch as the GM, they have Adam Peters as the assistant GM, then Ran Carthon as the third there as the director of player personnel. So having reset all of that, now we understand what the roles are. Let's hear the list.
Can I interest you in 27? Will you grade out the pick for me? Can you do that?
Grade out A through F?
1 through 10, whatever you want to do.
Okay, let's say A through F. I'm dumb.
Can I interest you in 5th-round pick, or 2017 5th-round pick, tight end out of Iowa, George Kittle?
Yes, you may. I would say A+.
Is that a good pick?
That is a good pick. George Kittle, I don't know why I didn't remember George was a 5th-round pick.
Yeah, number 146 overall.
Yeah, that's a solid one.
His last year in college, he only had 314 yards and 4 touchdowns. With the Iowa. Yeah. Can I interest you in one Trent Taylor, the wide receiver out of Louisiana Tech in the 5th round in 2017?
Trent Taylor actually had, he's had good spurts. Is he still a Niner at present?
I'll double check.
I don't know where Trent Taylor is, but Trent Taylor had a few years. Sure. You can interest me in that.
Trent Taylor currently is a Cincinnati. Oh, he's a Bengal. That's right.
Oh, yeah.
He's had a nice season in Cincinnati.
He did have a nice season.
Former Louisiana Tech wide receiver. Moving on into 2018, and we don't have to go through every pick the 49ers made over the last 5 years, but guys like 5th-round pick DJ Reed in 2018, right? Guys like 5th-round pick Jay Greenlaw in 2019. A fan favorite here, Jawan Jennings in 2020, 7th-round pick out of Tennessee. Elijah Mitchell, 6th round in 2021. Of course, one Brock Purdy, 7th round in 2022, currently starting quarterback in the divisional round. And then in free agency, when you talk about his role as both the director of pro and player personnel, signing quarterback Charvarius Ward off the street, 3 years.
MTSU's own.
$42 million.
Yeah, pretty good.
Obviously, was the Christian McCaffrey move the most important in-season move for any team this year?
Ooh, that's a great question. In-season move. Where else would that – I'm trying to think of what other in-season moves would even come close to Christian McCaffrey. Trade deadline
T.J. Hawkinson was a big deal.
From the Lions to the Vikings was a big deal, and he went crazy in his first game and does fit exactly what they want to do there. So Hawkinson –
the trade deadline wasn't that busy. Like it was T.J. Hawkinson to Minnesota.
But those are still some big names.
Sure, Nyheim Hines to Buffalo, where he's made an impact as a return man. But I think McCaffrey, given where the Niners are right now, is the 2 seed in the NFC, and that next level status they've reached with the offense, and McCaffrey being such a massive part of that. His numbers have been insane. I think 12 total touchdowns since he arrived in San Francisco.
So I'm looking at the list here. Like Robbie Anderson, Christian McCaffrey, Jonathan Hankins for the Cowboys is a big deal, but it's not to that scale. Kadarius Toney with the Chiefs it hasn't really panned out in meaningful ways. Calvin Ridley TBD from the Falcons to the Jaguars. So yeah, I think it's it
has to be McCaffrey.
Yeah, it's McCaffrey. It's not terribly close. Now they gave up a ton. This year's second and third rounder and fourth rounder plus a 2024 fifth rounder. So like 4 draft picks for a running back on a big deal. That's not something most people would advise in doing.
And the evaluation thing with Christian McCaffrey, it's like, yeah, Christian McCaffrey's a good football player. I guess the only risk you're taking on there is the injury history.
Which is a risk.
Yeah, but it's safe to say that his resume as an evaluator is pretty rock solid, right?
I would agree.
So what's the biggest unknown with Ran Carthon in this new role that he's never had before as a general manager? I mean, is it
everything else?
Yeah, relationships, brokering, trade deals.
No, but now the relationship element of him is very, very well documented. He is somebody who players love, who executives respect, whose work ethic is regarded very, very highly in the league. And the emphasis on the relationship building portion of it is something that is brought up very often. That and something that Ian Rappaport, a nugget that Ian Rappaport had the other day on the NFL Network as far as his personality and his approach to the construction of a football team. This is Ian Rappaport, I believe, yesterday on television.
Yeah, so much of this was about leadership for Ran Carthon, and there's a lot that goes on in the Tennessee Titans building, especially the big personality, I would say demanding personality, of Mike Vrabel, the longtime head coach there, and Ran Carthon is someone who has dealt with big-time personalities before, a Bill Parcells disciple, and really someone who is seen as a bridge builder among all facets, from players to executives to coaches. This is someone who can stand up to the best of them and also do it in a soft, gentle way. Really, really skilled personnel executive. Won out as the finalist over Ian Cunningham from the Chicago Bears and Ryan Cowden, the in-house candidate from the Tennessee Titans. And as far as that leadership goes, was noteworthy that Amy Adams Strunk, the owner, said in this statement announcing this hire that she was impressed with his, quote, natural leadership abilities and ability to connect with people. That, first and foremost, is what Ran Carthon is about.
So all this is well and good until he's on the job, right? And he's on the job officially as of, well, I mean, I guess he's on the job officially as of signing his contract Monday evening. But
no, wasn't it Tuesday? The reporting on the timeline. There was new reporting today on the timeline, right, on when those second-round interviews took place with Carthon.
Tuesday, yes.
Basically, he was offered the job right after the second interview took place.
And it is interesting in also that reporting from, I believe, the NFL Network, that Ian Cunningham, the candidate from the Bears, turned down the Arizona Cardinals.
That was Jay Glazer with that one.
Jay Glazer of Fox. Jay Glazer saying that Ian Cunningham turned down the Cardinals and was still very much interested in the running for the Titans job until they decided that Ran Carthon was their preferred candidate. So unfortunately for Ian Cunningham, he kind of, missed out on being an NFL general manager. Now maybe I don't know what the situation is like in Arizona. Maybe their GM just walked away after having significant problems throughout the season. The organization has been in tatters, and Cliff Kingsbury is so fed up with football after spending a couple of years on the Cardinals staff that he bought a one-way ticket to Thailand and said, "Nah, peace, I'm good on your OC offers for the time being." So what don't we know about Ran Carthon? Well, basically everything else that's involved with the general manager.
Being the final say on draft night, right? Actually making these trades, executing the trades.
What his staff is going to look like, because, I mean, one would assume that there would be some changes to the front office personnel now that a new chief executive is coming in. All of that stuff is something that we don't have answers to. He'll be asked questions about philosophical approach and what he thinks about current players on the roster and how he, if the Titans if he can recreate the kind of personnel magic with the Titans that he's had with the Niners, or, you think somebody asked him about trading for Trey Lance? I don't think so.
Oh, you're saying in the presser?
Yeah, I think. Do you think a media person asked him if he's trading for Trey Lance?
If they do, I really hope it's not citing the Instagram post.
Trey Lance, your former quarterback.
What do you think of fingers crossed emoji?
What does the finger crossed emoji mean to you?
What does it mean to you? Yeah, that's it.
It's like one of those Rorschach tests or whatever, where the therapist holds up an image, a blotted image for you to tell you what it is.
Hold it up in the presser.
What does this mean?
What comes to mind when you see this emoji?
God, why is this stuff so stupid? Off-season is fun. I understand why fans love it, but it is just exhausting in terms of the different rabbit holes that people try and take themselves down, much less everything else. But it's going to be a fascinating case study because like you heard from Greg in that clip earlier, sure, if the Titans could be a fraction of what the 49ers are on offense, that'd be swell. That all sounds great. Now, how much conversation is going to be had between Ran and Mike on the OC hire matters because Ran is going to be looking for a particular type of player, as is Vrabel. They're going to need to come to collaboration and consensus on that, and it has to be somebody, the coach that they hire, along with the other coaches that they need to hire to replace guys like Anthony Mitchett and Keith Carter and Eric Frazier. All of those things, when you come down to it, are going to be, once they get on the field, more in control of the coaching staff than they are in the GM. I'm sure John Robinson thought he made plenty of good personnel decisions towards the end and that certain things happened that didn't allow those things to be maximized. Or, some were just bad picks. Shout out Des Fitzpatrick. I don't think there's a thing that we have discussed less as an indictment of the former front office construct here than Des Fitzpatrick. And I don't know why that keeps popping into my head as of late, but man, does that guy get off easy as far as how little he's been able to contribute. I mean, he's contributed nothing but contributed to a 4-interception performance by Ryan Tannehill against the Houston Texans when he absolutely had to play. But there is going to be a stylistic kind of marriage here that I'm fascinated about. And the idea that he's not a my way or the highway guy, whatever that means. And Vrabel is very, very, much. Mike is very aggressive and challenging and rightfully so. A very successful coach and player during the course of his time in the league and understands how to identify talent. There's no question about that. So how those two work together is going to be we'll never know the real behind the scenes deal, but that is something that is going to be so interesting to see play out and how it kind of manifests itself in the draft process.
I didn't realize Des Fitzpatrick was a Steeler.
What?
Yeah, that went right. Someone in the chat, AJ in the chat, said Des is a Steeler now. Yeah, the Pittsburgh Steelers signed former Titans wide receiver Des Fitzpatrick. I'm reading this from the Tennessean.
When?
Nick Gray of the Tennessean a week ago. I totally missed this. It was a future contract.
No bleep.
Yeah, Des Fitzpatrick.
Well, I guess the Titans don't have to send. I had no idea that. Well, good luck.
Future contract for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Steelers fans hate their OC, and they kept Matt Canada. That is something that is causing a lot of problems.
A lot of strife in Pittsburgh over that move. It's crazy. Do you remember what they gave up for Des?
To trade up to get him? I know he was a 4th-round draft pick. I can't remember the compensation exactly. Do you have it in front of you?
A 4th, a 5th, and a 7th.
Oh.
It's so crazy, and hindsight's 2020. But
no.
But that was one of those, because we talked about that, right? Like, try to remove hindsight from it. What was the head scratcher in the moment? Des Fitzpatrick, that pick was top 3, right, in the J-Rob era of, in that moment, everybody wondering what in the world was going on.
Do you remember that dude we had? And forgive me, I don't mean to be. I don't mean to be. This was like the first couple of weeks that we had the show because I feel like we started right in the middle of the draft process.
We started in March of 2021.
So, yeah, middle of the draft process before the 2021 draft. Do you remember that dude we had on from the 33rd team? And I asked him specifically about Des Fitzpatrick before they drafted him. And that was the top of the list for the article he had just written on biggest bust potential in the NFL draft. It was Des Fitzpatrick at the top.
Yeah, I remember.
And that was months before they drafted Des Fitzpatrick. And the metrics on that, obviously, that is also easier analysis to do once you have the results in hand. But damn, I had no idea that
I'd be interested. Be interested to go back and see who else he had on that list.
Yeah, that would be good to do in retrospect. Either way, last call for phone calls, 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. Last segment, we'll do some polls. Do we have more new polls? Poll updates?
Stay tuned, find out.
Uh-oh, spicy. Oh, you had to finish with the GOAT, right? Happy birthday, Dolly. Man. You think there is a do you think Jolene's real?
Yeah.
Who would try and steal Dolly Parton's man?
I think it's based on a real story.
Who is this woman? And what, I mean, do you think she walks around? I mean, I don't know how Jolene is probably in her 70s as well. Do you think she walks around and be like, hey, that's me. I tried to steal Dolly's man.
Still Dolly's man, by the way.
Hell yeah. That guy's got it figured out right. 615-737-1045. Last call for phone calls. JD in Lebanon. Hey, JD.
Hey, buddy. Just wanted to get your opinion on what might possibly happen this offseason. I saw a tweet from DeAndre Hopkins, who I know Arizona had mentioned they are open to trading. It was a picture of DeAndre, Derrick Henry, and Lamar Jackson, and he said, "What do you think? How many points do you think this trio is scoring?" And so it got me thinking, like, Lamar could possibly be gotten. DeAndre's open to be traded for. We've already got Henry. Tannehill's on his last year of his contract, and he's been, consistently inconsistent. So do we see that as a possibility that Ran Carthon might consider trying to make a power trio to continue a playoff push next year and possibly get Derrick Henry a Super Bowl before he's done?
JD, do you think that's a real thing?
It's possible. I mean, it would take a lot of work and a lot of effort, but it's possible.
Everything is possible. That's entirely correct. Sure. Are we at the stage where we're going to start lusting after Photoshop edits? Because that picture from Hopkins is like from 2018 or something like that, with Lamar and Derrick, or 2019, something like that.
Don't go at JD.
I'm not.
Right.
I'm not.
This is what the offseason is.
I'm going at the idea. No, this is not what the offseason is. The offseason is, well, what do you need to the actual offseason is, okay, what do they need to do to fix the offensive line? Well, they've got the 11th overall pick, the tackle from Northwestern, Skoronski, which is just the most offensive line name in the world, by the way.
Yeah.
They've got the 11th overall pick. They've got a quarterback in place. They got a running back who needs a little more help. So you can either get an offensive lineman at 11, you could get a wide receiver at 11. You could do all these things. Maybe you dip into free agency. You start to replenish your depth. Ran Carthon, you don't necessarily know what his player strategy will be, but there's certainly a type that the 49ers offense was interested in at the time. I am not interested in engaging in quarterbacks under contract like Lamar Jackson, wide receivers under contract who have played hardly any of the games that they've been in since he signed that contract with the Arizona Cardinals, whether it be by PED suspension. You know how much you hate Taylor Lewan? JD, I don't know if you hate Taylor Lewan the way that a lot of people hate Taylor Lewan here for the amount of football that he hasn't played, but if you want to make that a wide receiver, Hopkins. That's the same thing. You want to live that life? Probably not. So let's not do the photo. There's a photo edit on the internet somewhere of Lamar, Derrick, and Hopkins and say, can we make it happen, baby? Can we go all in? Yeah, it's a possibility, but not, I don't know, just hit the polls.
And now, the polls have to be updated. We've reached a crucial point in the show. It's time to update the polls. Take my hand, get to the chopper. Lucas Panzica will give us the final update. Why am I yelling? It's giving me a headache. But it's only a headache. It's not a tumor. Hasta la vista, baby. I'll be back. Why am I yelling?
Oh, my God.
It's presented by Two Rivers Ford.
Now, that's not even an Arnold impression. That's just Rhett yelling with an accent into a microphone.
I think it's my new favorite. Why am I yelling?
How many new ones are there?
A few.
Okay.
We'll sprinkle them in. Presented by Two Rivers Ford, who sells below MSRP on every non-specialty new Ford. Which future quarterback situation is more likely to be impacted by the divisional round? 74% say it's Niners versus the 26% that say Giants.
I think Brock Purdy's situation is far more up in the air than Daniel Jones, but that's a recent development. courtesy of Daniel Jones. Good for
Wait.
him.
Why would Brock Purdy's be more up in the air than Daniel Jones, though, given Jones being in the final year of his contract as opposed to Purdy being in year one of a rookie deal?
Because I don't think anybody is realistically going to look at Brock Purdy either way after this is over and say that's a starting quarterback in the NFL.
What if he takes him to the Super Bowl?
Okay, Trey Lance is still on the roster, and they traded up. They gave up a ton of picks for him. He's a first-round pick. Trey Lance is going to win that battle by default.
Oh, man. We'll talk about it if the Niners
stop
win.
trying to manifest Tom Brady Jr. Stop it.
Which he's doing
not
it.
even Tom Brady Jr. He's He's the last pick in the NFL
This
draft.
has nothing to do with Tom Brady.
This is like, you remember Luke Falk? How long Luke Falk lasted here as one of 4 Titans draft
What
picks
does
in that
Luke
year?
Falk have to do with Brock Purdy?
Luke Falk was drafted higher than Brock Purdy.
Yeah, did Luke Falk lead the Titans to the divisional round and the number 1 offense in football when he was the starter?
No, but Luke Falk didn't have Debo, Kittle.
Don't do that.
Shanahan, all of it.
I can't wait for Brock Purdy to win the Niners the Super Bowl.
Luke Falk, future Titans starting quarterback.
Which NFL team is most likely to get upset in the divisional round? 41% give it to the Eagles. 39% say it's the Bills. 13% the Niners. Only 7% think it's the Chiefs.
I really do think the Eagles are an upset watch before this game even begins. I think that's a fascinating game to watch.
Is On3 Sports gaslighting Tennessee fans by rating Nico the number 1 prospect in the country? 65% say yes.
I don't think they're gaslighting Vols fans by doing that. I think they're gaslighting Vols fans by ranking the wide receiver that the Vols have committed to them over Carnell Tate, who is a consensus stud at the position.
Nathan Laycock, who you're talking about, out of North Carolina. What is the best Dolly Parton song as we celebrate the 77th birthday of our queen, Dolly Parton? Davis Nolan from Channel 2, our favorite weatherman, says 9 to 5, of course, the classic.
So I was not aware of, what's your favorite song?
It's Traveling Prayer. It was one of the first ones I played.
I think, so that Bluegrass album, I listened to all of
Yeah,
it.
The Grass is Blue.
Yeah, man. It's hard. I don't want to steal yours, but like, I just love the sound of bluegrass music, and it's Dolly.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me not to lean that, although Jolene is the one that understandably so, the vast majority of people are going to go with.
Jolene is the default. Many are saying, like Maurice Patton, Jolene, the initial reaction, but I Will Always Love You, a classic, whether it's her or Whitney. She did write that song.
Sure.
Nathan Clark says Islands in the Stream. I played that one a couple of breaks ago. V-Love specifically asked to play that one. Gary saying Coat of Many Colors. I love all the deep cuts that we're getting in there, but Mary Claire says the only right answer is all of them.
Yes, all of them. Just her. Fan of her. Everything that she does is literally gold.
Those are the polls.
All right, very good. That's the show. We are jam-packed and loaded tomorrow. Voice of the Vols, Bob Kessling, Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio, and the first time that you will hear from new Titans GM Ran Carthon. We will carry that press conference live for you in the noon hour. Have a great rest of your Thursday afternoon. I'll talk to you tonight on A to Z Sports Prime Time, and Blaine and Mickey got you covered coming up next.